And we're back. Hey, Lucas, thank you for joining us. Quick introduction, and then we'll kind of catch you up on what we were talking about.
Yeah, thank you. Please.
Yeah.
Lucas Worthing. I am a big, passionate fan of motorcycles and have been the city host for 2022 and 2023 for the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride here in Los Angeles. I also was a city co-host for a few years before that, working with Sam Bendel and the rest of the team. It's been a real honor and pleasure being a part of this change for men's mental health and physical health. And I'm happy to be here today.
Well, thank you for being here. You also, we were kind of catching up. We did introductions, and we were kind of talking about life and history in the program and how we got into bikes. And we were even talking about World War I and II and Vietnam and everything else. But you sent me a little bit of an agenda of what you wanted to discuss for the episode and the podcast and stuff that you want to highlight that's coming up. Also, I think raising funds is coming up now in March and everything else. And do you have enough cable there?
Yeah,
Slack?
I'm good. I'll do this. Yeah. Do you want me to go forward with that? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
That's why we're here.
So basically what I did, I think a lot of people have a misconception about the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. You know, there's this talk about that it's a fundraiser, and there's obviously the glamour of it, right? We have these beautiful two-wheeled machines that we pour our heart and soul and every paycheck into. And we get, we don our finest attire, we get suited up, we look sharp. We call a kind of, it's a call to arms, right? In a way. And you're pulling together people that you care about and people that you don't know, and you're bringing this family of your city together, two-wheel-minded people, and some not, for a good cause. And, I think for the most part, what we're trying to achieve and what I sent you in that email was basically the fundraising and where that money goes.
The breakdown.
Exactly.
I love how you sent it 10 minutes before the podcast. It's like 30 pages. I mean, a couple hours.
Well, so good point.
Yeah.
And I appreciate your
my blunt.
Yeah, no. But I think what's important there is the 3 pages in that 60-page document that tells you exactly where that money's going for the United States.
Right.
Because I think local programs really touch the heart for people. Obviously, it's a global ride, and there are hundreds of countries involved and tens of thousands of riders, and it's a really big event. But it's nice to know that it's having an effect on the local level. Yeah. And so what I sent you is from 2022. It's the latest kind of presentation that's come from the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride, and it talks about exactly where that money is going and how Movember Foundation, our partnership relationship, is using that money to make change. So there are certain things I wanted to focus on, but I also recognize that this is a podcast, and I don't want to just kind of spout numbers. As a city host, though, you see the dark side of everything, right? And the dark side of this is that occasionally people come up to me and they say, well, I don't know where these funds are going, and I don't want to just give you $50 and, not know where it goes, and et cetera, et cetera. Some people already have made this determination, right, that the money is not going towards the things that they thought it was. And there's some legitimacy to it. And I wanted to kind of bring that into, the light and let people know, like, Movember Foundation is our charity partner, and a large majority percentage of that money goes directly to them. Right. There is a small percentage for the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride for operation purposes and for, obviously,
permits, city compliance, renting spot. You were just making a comment that you were going to get some people involved for cameras and videos and everything, and you were going to pay out of your pocket. Yeah. I'm sure we're all doing it one way or another, but there is an expense, there is an overhead. Regardless, if everybody volunteers and does it for free, the city still wants money. You still need to get the escorts and everything else. Like it's absurd.
And we try to fundraise to cover that as well.
Yeah.
Right, as much as we can.
Of course.
We pitch in. The ride team actually pitches in a lot personally. But yeah, there's always a little bit.
There's always a little bit, but again, this is why we're trying to have this conversation. Is we do want to break this down. Is there a website, or is it just that packet if people wanted to see that breakdown of percentages?
So obviously the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride has Gentleman's Ride website, right, .com. You can go on there. You can look up your local city. You can look up your local state, your country. And you can see specifically the allocation, the relationship of that allocation to your city. I think for me, obviously, it's a lot more than the fundraising. And I think it was the same thing for Mark Hawa, the founder, going back 15 years, basically, that he just really wanted to bring like-minded people together for a good cause and raise awareness and get rid of that stigmatism that people riding a motorcycle are somehow a bad guy, you know, or a bad woman, and that they're on the dark side of life and they were living life in the fast lane with tattoos and not caring about anything. And that's really just not the case. You know, the majority of distinguished gentlemen and gentle ladies are professionals. They're out there making a difference in the world, trying to do something in their own life, and they are for this ride, carving out time in their life for a cause outside of themselves or directly related to themselves. You know, I have many people come up to me and say, hey, man, my dad's fighting prostate cancer right now. I'm so proud to be a part of this and be making a difference. And, you know, it's those kind of moments you realize, like, you know, all the stress of putting a huge event together. And, you know, LA is a big city. And so it comes with it a lot of stress preparing these events and venues and
we were
permits.
talking about how he was running parking for a while, and I'm like, dude, that's no easy job. That's insane. That's intense.
Exactly.
You know? and not to just talk about, you know, the reason we're gathered here is because of the cause of the DGR ride, but the stories that come out from the actual event. I mean, Mark Hawa was on the podcast not too long ago, and he was talking about people have, you know, met their wife. People have, you know, now have kids. People have, you know, found help. People found jobs. People found friends. You know, the amount. I mean, we're all hanging out now because of DGR. There's no other reason.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I mean, like earlier I was saying how I got involved with the DGR, you know, just because I just want to show up for the ride.
Yeah.
I just thought it would be fun. I went through cancer myself, and I thought, hey, you know. But when I started to get to know, I think Luke was actually the first person from the team that actually reached out to me and said, hey, next year, you know, maybe you should come up on this stage and get a little more involved. And I got a little more involved. And the next year, a little more involved. I was vetted pretty hard. These guys, this team are not guys that are going to dip into the account. Okay, they all make good money. They, you know, there's no motivation for them to do anything, you know, nefarious or anything like that.
Yeah.
Not in this, not in our city. That's for sure. And I don't think in the other cities too. I think that the whole worldwide organization vets those cities and who's involved.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's not taken lightly. We try to make it look like it's taken lightly because we try to make it fun. But underneath, I've never seen so much work. I mean, it's incredible the amount of work that these guys do, way more than what I'm doing. I feel like I'm stepping up a little more this year. But man, there's so much work that goes into this. It's incredible. Yeah. I mean, I'm exhausted thinking about it.
Well, Rikki, you bring up a really good point, right? Which is, you know, the potential of nefarious acts when you're dealing with a foundation like this or a, you know, a huge event like this. There's a lot of money involved. And I think part of having that professionalism, you know, it's a mindset. And when you get involved in something like this, by the way, I realize we're wearing the same watch, which is really cool. I mean, I have the different band.
There's nothing distinguished
I just
about
got
that,
this
John.
We're both wearing a beautiful Panerai Ceramica.
That's so undistinguished.
I love this piece. So it's cool to see you wearing it. But yeah, I mean, it's an example like that. You and I having that conversation, right? Of, you know, the clothing we wear or something. It's like you get to have all these sudden, like, oh, I know this guy for years, but yet I never knew we share the same watch. Or it sounds silly, but you know, it's you realize there's these layers of fabric in society, and I feel like the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride peels up a lot of those layers, and it exposes things that people don't see in the normal world. And I think it's a really great cause that has a lot of really great effects to it and affects to it.
Yeah.
So,
You know what? It's the one cool thing that I don't even know if they ever set out to do it this way, but back in the day, our lead singer, Brett Michaels, and I used to come up with these parties that we would do. And when we first moved to the West Coast, we realized there was a lot of posers, right? And we've been called posers too, but whatever.
Posers in L.A. West? Nah.
No.
Get out of here, dude.
And we'd go, okay, how do you avoid that? Okay, well, we'll have a theme to every party. It's a dead rock star party, or it's everybody's got to wear togas, or whatever. And then it just levels the playing field. It's just everybody looks the same.
it's like
With
going to a new beach.
Yeah.
Although I don't know if that actually levels the playing ground.
Well, I think with the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride, everybody's kind of like dressing up in a suit. Like you can't, how much better are you going to get than the other guy? You know,
Right.
I paid $500 for mine. I paid $5,000 for whatever.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's running around in a tie. Everyone's running around in a suit, even the girls. And you know, it's almost like all that kind of goes away now.
Yeah.
And now you really get to the heart of why you're there. You're on a bike and you're riding for a cause, and you're trying to make it all go smooth so everybody has a great time. And everyone that I've been to, everybody has had a great time. I've never had anybody say, man, the only thing anybody has ever said is, man, I wanted to ride faster.
Yeah.
Sorry, with 600 bikes, it's just you're not going to.
That's what's going to happen, yeah.
But and I'm like, and we'll go ride fast after this, okay? You know, but everybody has a great time. It's always a fulfilling. It's a great fulfilling time.
Yeah.
In other words, it's not just like a party. It's like you feel like you've done something at the end of the day,
Right.
And that's the missing piece that you have to go there and do it to fulfill yourself with, to understand, I should say.
No, I get it 100% because I'll give you another example of what I've been experiencing with bike shed. You know, the reason I feel like I've been getting along with, you know, I just saw your ring, you know, fellow members and everything else. I'm just thinking, you know, that barrier of entry of paying a membership, you know, not everybody can afford it. And that weaves out a lot of flaky.
It's got to be a priority.
It's got to be a priority. And it weaves out a lot of people that don't make it a priority or might be a flaky character. And I've witnessed it. I've seen it. And it made me appreciate the membership even more. And this is the same thing, you know, it's like I know people that will say $50 to join a ride. Let me tell you something. We all know we'll pay $50 even if there was no Movember or there was no cause behind it. The fact that there's going to be 600-700 motorcycles, whatever, 300 motorcycles, 200 motorcycles, 50 motorcycles to ride in a group. Everybody in LA wants to do that. Yeah. So it like whatever excuse anybody has, just cross it out. And if you do want more information, reach out. There is a person representative in each city that they can reach out to, and if you want to see where your funds are going to, they'll show you the breakdown. That's not hidden. That's not a secret. That's not nothing.
Well, the other thing is too, I can't guarantee it, but I can almost guarantee that you're going to walk away there
being recorded
from like 5 numbers of other girls or guys that want to ride that you're going to get together with now after the ride.
Yeah.
Like these guys I like hanging out
People,
with besides this,
girls
you know?
or guys.
Yeah.
well,
Folks.
So I think that's a layer that it's important to discuss. You know, if we're going to have a podcast about Gentleman's Ride and there's all this talk about men's health, it's also really important to understand that women are a huge, huge part of this. You know, the community at large, motorcycles, you know, women they're the shoulders that a lot of men stand on to have the experiences they have. And the team that we've built, you know, there's really strong women involved and some of the strongest women I've ever worked with. And it speaks to what it takes to kind of deal with, you know, the masculinity, the over intense masculinity that comes with, you know, putting on a huge event like this and trying to piece everything together. And, I'm thinking about Mickey, who's on the team. She's one of 8 of
she's
us.
a dynamo, man.
Yeah.
Incredible firecracker of a woman. She's really strong-willed, strong-minded. She actually runs a lot of the check-in. And if you can think about 600 motorcycles showing up, with a cell phone or some kind of whatever proof
Tablet,
that they,
Or folks who show up that didn't register.
or
Yeah.
And they're like,
exactly.
let
She's
me
got to deal with them.
And filtering them out and stuff like that.
No,
Yeah.
Mickey's a
And
force.
she's the best one to deal with them.
Yeah, and so Mickey, you have to understand. I'll describe her a little bit if you don't know her, but she's how tall do you think she is? She's got to be like 5 foot and
5'3" soaking wet.
Yeah, and tiny too, petite, and
By the way,
rides.
way better rider than I am.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
I mean, like by a mile, not even close.
She
Yeah,
rides-
she'll smoke us.
She rides track.
Wow.
She rides track. She rides off road. She's got an
she's
adventure bike.
so
She's got
talented.
street bike. She's got a track bike. I mean, it reminds me a lot of myself in ways, how she attacks all these different genres of motorcycles. But I'm just trying to make a point that there is this layer that we tend to forget to mention, which is the strength of the community as a whole, that being both men and women. And this cause is, as much as it is for men, it's also for women, because women are dealing with the person beside them, whether it's their brother or their father or their husband or boyfriend, that's maybe dealing with some kind of, mental health issue, or struggling with discovering that they just found out they have testicular cancer or prostate cancer. And I wanted to mention there's this Ironman registry since 2016 up until 2022. $18 million has been invested in this program. And what it is
Wow.
it's a program and this is directly from Distinguished Gentleman's Ride through Movember. It's one of the ways you're seeing your money, and this is in the U.S. So these funds are directly related to U.S. Over 366,000 men die a year of prostate cancer. So you have to realize there needs to be a better solution. And this registry, this Ironman registry, is exactly that. So what it's doing is, if you discover you have prostate cancer, you register on this Ironman registry, and all of these doctors and clinical physicians are basically becoming a part of your team. And they're looking at your treatment and your type of prostate cancer and how progressive it is. And they're developing an understanding of, okay, this worked for this guy, and he had this type, and it was this bad. So this guy that just registered, we're going to tell him to go this direction, and we're going to put a team together. And this is something that's funded.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
That's mind blowing.
This is one example. I have 16, 32, almost 50 examples here just in the U.S. of where these funds are going, and the money ranges from like $300K to $20 million. Depending on the cause and how effective it is. And Movember's very strategic about that. They're really trying to make smart decisions in how they move that money and how they're making a difference for people.
Yeah. No, Movember's been around forever, and what they're doing and their causes is outstanding. It's amazing. For people, because it's interesting, because, we've all, I talked to it with Anthony and Donald. I've known of the ride, but I didn't know much of the ride. And I've been in the motorcycle world for 20 plus years. And that's kind of my goal, is I want more people to know about it. So some of the things that were exciting to about the DGR ride is, one, the actual ride. Two, there's usually some kind of party, right? Mm-hmm. And it's private. Everything's, until you join, they tell you what, the day before or something like that?
Yeah, so the actual...
And why is it private? And I've asked these questions before. But
No, it's a great question, because I think a lot of people are in the dark about it. They don't understand why it's secretive. And it's really because it's about raising funds, right? So if I were to tell you where it is, when it is, you would show up, and you would have contributed nothing to the cause other than being present and being part of it, which I appreciate. I think we all do, right, guys?
Right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're investing our time and energy, and money, because time is money, into a cause, and we're trying to bring together like-minded people that are willing to step outside of their own grind and do something for other people. And so, where do you find it? gentlemansride.com. You can register. Registration is coming up. So registration stops a month after the ride, and we tally all the money. You can still donate, but we tally all the money at that point. And I shouldn't say we, because it's actually the team in Australia. And then they disperse those funds to Movember and all the necessary allocation directions.
A thing that I wanted to bring up is it's usually $50 to sign up.
Correct. Minimum donation in Los Angeles. And the reason is, part of that is because we need to keep the number down.
Right. It's nothing for the experience and the cause and the fun and the people you're going to meet, and et cetera. But Donald called me last year, and I think it was like a week before the event or something. And he's like, "Hey, man, you're not going to be able to join the ride." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "You have to raise $50 too." So I didn't know that, and I want people to know that you have to pay $50 to get in, and you got to raise minimum $50, which then brings me to my other point that I thought was exciting. They give away four or five motorcycles, Triumphs, to the top fundraisers
globally. But there's
I know, but still, it's exciting.
There's something very exciting happening this year, though.
Oh, hold on. I gotta. I don't know what the mystery sound is. I forget.
Yeah. Press a button somewhere.
There it is, the mystery. What is it? Tell us.
So next Thursday, we're having a kind of launch party, and you want to RSVP for it. I suggest jumping on either Facebook or Instagram and hunting it down. But once you RSVP, basically you're going to be invited to this party. I won't tell you where it's at, but you'll discover it as soon as you register. Members know, but if you're a non-member, just do a little research. Register. We're going to be announcing, and this is the first time we've done this I think ever in Los Angeles. We're going to be giving away a brand new motorcycle. And I'm not going to go into the details around it, but I can tell you this. If you're the top fundraiser in LA, you'll be involved in that. But there's also going to be other people that are raising enough money that they can be involved as well. And we'll go into the details of that on Thursday at this event. So jump on your computer, register for, and RSVP for the event and be there.
Computer? Can I use my cell phone?
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
I'm kidding.
Well, computers are cell phones these days.
That's true.
But I think, this is an exciting thing because it equalizes the playing field, and it gives people that are involved in the event raising funds an opportunity to walk away with a brand new two-wheeled machine.
Yeah.
So
no, there's a lot of giveaways. There's a lot of prizes. There's a lot of companies, sponsors that are joining. Can you mention some of the sponsors that you guys are dealing with so far?
Yeah, so we have some local sponsors, which is great. We have like Moto Chop Shop, which I think a lot of folks know. Kevin,
great guys.
It's like such a great shop. SoCal Moto Brea is a Triumph dealership that's on board. Who else we got?
Triumph.
Well, obviously Triumph Motorcycles, massive sponsor.
They make motorcycles, right?
So they do make
That's not
motorcycles.
So Triumph is a global sponsor, but we also have Southern California SoCal Triumph, which Brea Triumph, and they're our kind of super sponsor. So they've given us a large chunk of money to represent themselves and their bikes, and they're involved in the giveaway of the bike. So I'm dropping some clues here. People that hear this podcast are gonna be like, "What?" Yeah,
and no, it's gonna be good. I know there's a bunch of gear folks coming on board. I don't know how much we want to disclose, but there's a bunch of good giveaways.
And there's always the raffle. Everyone is going to get a raffle ticket just by being there. So everybody gets the opportunity to win something, but you can buy more raffle tickets. And as somebody who usually spends $100 to $200 on raffle tickets, I tend to win a lot of stuff. It's way more than 100 or 200. Yeah. So it's one of those kind of things, and all that money goes to Movember. Yeah. Any money we raise, we're channeling directly to Movember.
Should we talk about music or not give that away?
Oh, I would love for you to talk about Rikki. I mean,
absolutely.
We can. Okay, so
let's get people
we have
excited.
We have a loose.
Just don't tell them venue.
Don't what?
Don't mention the venue.
Oh no.
Or street corner.
Yeah. So I decided. So I had a side band called the Devil City Angels for a long time. So Brandon, the singer, him and I are joining forces with two of the members from Chevy Metal, which was Taylor Hawkins' side band, and we're going to do something at the ride.
Whoa.
So, and we'll bring guests up to be announced.
Yeah.
And there's a Kiss cover band opening the whole thing, so it's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be insane.
Killer. Yeah.
You know what this is starting to sound like, which I don't know if I could say. Well, I can't say. Remember Love Ride?
Of course.
Yes,
a lot of people
absolutely.
forgot. This is becoming like a Love Ride.
Love Ride was great. I've been on a ton of them.
Amazing. Yeah, it was outstanding.
I've been on a ton of those rides. Sat up front with Peter Fonda.
Yeah.
Actually rode beside him.
Dean Del Rey, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah. Good buddy of mine.
But it was a long time that I didn't go on, and then all of a sudden it went away. So, but this
it went away. Yeah.
I feel like this is a tiny bit more exclusive, and I don't mean that in a snotty way. I just mean it that it's designed in such a way that I feel like everybody feels like they're participating,
Right.
Because there's a limited amount of motorcycles. And then you sponsor the rider. Like I always put it on Facebook. I have tons of people sponsor me, and at that point, all I got to do is just show up and do the ride.
Yeah.
Right. And what happens if you don't show up and do the ride and you have sponsors?
Well, I think look,
I don't think anybody's ever done.
NQ.
I think there's an interesting word there used, exclusivity, right? And it's not that we intend to be exclusive. It's not that we're trying to push people out. It's that we are trying to draw people in sooner.
Right.
So on this
Yes.
this coming Thursday, this is basically our launch party. And what we're trying to do is get people to sign up and register. And the reason we cap the ride is for their safety. Yeah. It's that simple. If you're going to ride 600 people through a big freeway city, avoiding freeways, and I don't know, a lot of local people will talk about how bad the drivers have gotten in Los Angeles, but
terrible.
It's very dangerous, and
Super.
we have to pay for officers to be there to block intersections, and a lot of them are armed. They're also our security. So those things are done to protect the riders, to make those riders safe. And we have a lot of first-time riders. Maybe they've gotten a bike 4 or 5 months ago, and they're still getting comfortable riding.
Yeah.
And so we're
parking.
trying parking. Yeah. Great example, right? Like people don't realize how difficult it is to take a 600-pound, 500-pound machine, 350 in my case, and try and, park that on an uneven surface and an uneven sloping lot. And if you're,
and 600 people looking at you.
Yeah.
Even though they're not looking at you.
And you're wearing, probably leather bottom shoes, and, you're taking risks that you don't normally take on a motorcycle. So it's
you got
definitely
no motorcycle gear on,
Yeah.
other than a helmet and gloves.
Yeah, and we don't want anyone to get injured. We don't want anyone to have any issues. So we take all these precautions to try and protect every single person that's involved. And so we cap that ride for safety purposes. And it's not about exclusivity. It's register now, raise some funds, see where those funds are going, go on the website, do your own research because it's all there.
Again, and I just want to bring that up. For me, I just didn't know. I gave my money, and then I was helping out with Hyman, and then we were doing all these things, and I thought it was fine, but I didn't know that was a requirement, and I think that was a new requirement.
Well, I'm not sure what your situation was, and I'm not sure.
Well, Donald was like, "Dude, you have to raise." I go, "I didn't know that. I've been telling everybody to donate for Hyman's thing. That that's where we're at." Yeah. And it wasn't a problem. He's like, "You could donate yourself, whatever." But I just...
Well, Don's a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
So he's very by the book, and he has this kind of presentation and how he looks at the...
And that's fine. My point is I just want people to know it's very simple.
Yes.
$50 donation and minimum raise 50 bucks. And you're doing a wonderful, great thing.
Yeah.
And
by the way, if you make a $50 donation, if you go on there, you could also have your wife do it, or your girlfriend, or your mother, or whatever. It doesn't have to come from you.
Right.
It's just that $50 initial kind of registration fee. And then he said that you had to continue to raise. You don't actually have to continue to raise. I think there may be some confusion there. We want you to.
Right.
Right. And the more you raise, the more likely you are to win prizes.
Yeah.
And this particular year, those prizes are better than they've ever been before. So, I think that's why we push for the tighter ride, the safer ride, and also a limited group and a minimum donation is because Otherwise, we're not making that change we want to make. And every year we want it to be better than the year before.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Anything we missed? Anything you want to add? Any invitations? Any Easter eggs?
Guys,
you guys
how much do we want to
them.
Expose here?
Any clues without giving it away?
I can tell you. It's an outdoor venue, which is, yeah, exactly. That's saying a lot because we don't normally do outdoor venues. Although last year we started at an outdoor venue, which was a beautiful theater, and I know those of you who were there know it was the Greek Theater, which was a really cool experience. And then we ended at a different venue. The ride's going to be really beautiful. Dakota has been working on that to make it very special for everybody. I'm a little less involved this year than I've ever been before. So the team has sort of taken on a lot more responsibility, and I think they're doing an amazing job. I'm just inundated with work, and I wish I could do more, but I try and get on those calls and make a difference. So in terms of secrets and things that are coming, I mean, if you really want to know, show up next Thursday, go online, go on Facebook, look up Los Angeles Gentleman's Ride, just Google it, and you should be able to find very quickly where our launch party is going to be, RSVP, and we're going to go over a lot of details during that.
Awesome.
The ride itself is May 19th. So between now and May 19th, please go online, get ready to register. I think registration opens next week, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think Friday, am I not mistaken?
Sounds right.
For the right donations, we'll do lap dances.
Ooh.
Rikki.
Yeah.
So go to the Ride Boundless OnlyFans page.
Ride Boundless. That's, hey, you know.
That's what you do.
We're going to have tons of stuff to give away. Like I said, there'll be a bike this year. We'll talk more about the details on that this Thursday. The day of the ride itself, we have a bunch of stuff happening in between too. So the sooner you get involved, the better. Pre-party, there's also a mid-party kind of during the fundraising that will be limited to people that are raising more funds than others because we can only host so many people at certain venues. And, you know, keep in mind, all these venues that are hosting us, they're all basically taking us under their wing and not billing us or charging us for their square footage when they normally do. Like last year we did the Bike Shed as the Finish Line, which is a $25,000 a day venue. And they basically donated that space to us.
And I'm going to say something too. One thing I've noticed since I've been involved with this, when I went through cancer, somebody said to me, like right at the beginning of my treatment, they said, you're going to find that that there's a lot of people that you thought would kind of elbow up and be close to you. And there's a lot of people that you never imagined are going to be close to you and really get involved. And you're going to be surprised by both of those places. When I got involved in fundraising and trying to get people involved in this cause, I realized it's the same thing. There's people that I never thought would get involved, got involved. A lot of people I thought would be a shoo-in just went, not my thing, don't want to help. It's not, I can't.
And that's okay, right?
And it's okay. But it just, my message is, don't be that guy. Be the guy that shows up. You know what I mean? Because that's really the bro thing to do. And if not everybody can stop what they're doing and get involved in fundraising. Of course not. And I think that's what Luke is saying. But if you can and you can donate something in some way, shape, or form, just do it. You know, because this is something, especially for men. Only for men. The prostate part of it is really a problem. But if a guy gets prostate cancer and needs help, there's going to be a woman behind him trying to help him through it. I wouldn't know what I would have done without my wife. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, she was, very strong, through all of that. So it's interesting who shows up and who doesn't. And it's the same way when you're doing fundraising. And so I just urge people to not be that guy. And I know that's an aggressive approach, and I apologize if it doesn't represent DGR completely. And so that's just my opinion, okay? So I want to separate myself from
I totally respect that.
I want to mention one other avenue that money, the funds go to. Since 2016 up until 2022, veterans and first responders, there's a program, $10.4 million was given to them through all these different facets and channels to prevent. So suicide is a big issue as well, and that's a big thing that we're fighting against. And a lot of that is just having some kind of support system, having quick access, any time of the day, and developing practical well-being tools and resources, and being able to have somebody in your environment that is capable of supporting you. And so the veterans and first responders, there's also another company out of the UK called Togetherall, and they have launched a US version, which has been committed to with Movember for 2.1 million, which is basically the same mindset. Whatever's on your mind, we are here is their slogan. So it just, and this stuff is not limited to men. It's driven by this suicide prevention, which is 4-to-1 ratio, men to women, but all sexes are it's
can call, yeah.
Yeah. And I
it's just, I'm just trying to simplify it as much as possible. Literally, if anybody has any suicidal thoughts, if anybody's having any mental health or stress, they could just grab their phone and call Movember.
Yes.
That's how it works.
Yes.
They can look at any number and Movember, call, they will be directed, and somebody will be there to.
Within minutes, you'll be talking to someone who is there specifically to listen to you. Yes.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And again, sometimes it's just not that simple that people you missed that conversation. We were talking about how people like to complicate their own lives.
It's that first step.
It's that
hard.
first step, and that first step is Wolf of Wall Street. Pick up the phone and start dialing. If you're looking for help, ask. And that's another message that I want to.
It's really hard to ask for help.
It really is. But a thing that I learned is more people want to help than not. And if you ask, you would be surprised by the responses.
Well, it's one of the best things about DGR community is that this is a group of like-minded people. It's a safe space.
Yeah.
Right?
So it filters out a bunch of people.
It's especially for men. Man, we suck at asking for help.
Yeah.
Right? Like that meme of like, would rather do X than go to therapy. That's like most people.
Yeah.
This is a safe space where we talk about this stuff openly, like as a group, as a ride team. Everybody that I meet, right, at the DGR, it's a like-minded community. If you need something, say something. They will point you in the right direction. Folks will show up for you. It's really more important. It kind of transcends the ride and everything else. It's the
no, it does. I mean, there's been a couple things where I've said something to the group. I won't divulge, but they're like, "Hey, man, if guys have hit me up aside from the group conversation. Hey, if you need help with that, let me know." It's really, and that transcends through the whole riding community that we've helped create, or that's been created, that we're a part of, I should say. It's really cool. It really is. And like I said, like we were talking earlier, some of these older, some people from super true grit people that have been through hell and back have a real tough time asking for help because they're like, I've done this. I've taken this person out. I've gone through war. It's hard to ask for help and feel vulnerable. That's a big step. It's a huge step, but we all get there. That doesn't mean somebody broke you. It means that you refuse to be broken. That's what that means.
Yeah.
If anything, I think it's the opposite of broken, right? Because you're taking a step towards creating a strength in yourself.
Absolutely.
By reaching out, by asking. Even if somebody isn't interested in helping you, the fact that you're taking that step for yourself is a sign of emotional intelligence. And a lot of people undermine the idea of emotional intelligence in a man's world. And the truth is that, all of us carry some kind of burden, whatever it is, or many burdens, depending on who you are. And for me to stand there and act like I know somebody when I've never even had these kind of conversations with them, it's so important to be willing to listen, and so important to be willing to take care of yourself and also reach out to people. And if you're shy in your community, just like we were saying, Robert, is, make that call. And that call is all you need to do to start.
I've said this story a few times because it's fucking painful and it's impactful. But it was they were interviewing a detective, and he did
First responders.
But this detective, they talked about, of all the cases that he solved, which one affected him the most, and he said there was a guy that jumped off a building, and the first thing he did is go back to the place, look for a suicide note, and he found the suicide note, and the suicide note is what shocked him the most. And they were like, well, what did it say? And he says the guy was going through a bad time, many reasons, but in the letter he stated, I'm on my way to take my life. If anybody says hi to me before I get to that spot, which was like 2 miles away, I won't do it. And nobody said hi. We're talking like a 20-minute, 30-minute walk. So one thing that I'd like to encourage for the DGR to kind of promote too is you got 600 people. You got a community, but everybody kind of gets in their little circle and their little groups, and I would, as the host of this podcast, I challenge everybody to say hi to people. Just say hi to everybody. Make a new friend.
I make a huge effort every year just to walk around and smile and shake a hand of somebody I've never met over and over and over and over again.
Dude, with your fucking 6'6" height and your build and your confidence, bro, come on. We got to encourage that to everybody.
I agree.
No, if you don't say hi to him, you're going to feel sorry for yourself.
Yeah.
No, but I think that's a really good point. It is about bringing people together, and the motorcycle community is a very kind and friendly community for the most part. And so I think don't be afraid to walk up to somebody and be like, hey, I saw a post, or I know about what you're doing, or be comfortable doing that. Sometimes it can be a little kind of nerve-wracking.
Nice bike.
Yeah, nice bike. Give a compliment.
Icebreaker.
Best way to break ice is to give a compliment, right? Because that's just inviting kindness. So, yeah, I agree. It's a great point, which is it is a community. So say hello to it one-on-one.
Yeah. And then I guess just to pull out one more piece of information, a success story that you've experienced, witnessed, that you had personally or know of somebody that's had because of this event. A friend, you made a friend, the opportunity to be here, or the chance to meet me on the podcast.
Honestly, these guys have really become, good friends. We don't see each other constantly because of where I live and where they live, so I have to do a little more effort. But I know that there's always an ear open, and I really think that's awesome. And I feel proud to be part of the community. There's some serious pride there. From being involved in this.
Oh, yeah.
I'm flattered that I've been asked to be part of this team. I'm very flattered. I wear that with a badge of honor. I've sold, I've been in a band that sold 50 million records across the world. And then this is the thing that I wear as a badge of honor. So, that.
Oh, we love you, Rikki. You make a big difference in the crew, man.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you being a part of this.
Yeah, I'm the lamest guy on the team. Trust me when I tell you that.
It's not true at all.
Yeah. I think I find a lot of inspiration in seeing the community grow beyond just this event. So LA's got a great motorcycle culture, and what I've seen happen over the past couple of years is other motorcycle communities crossing and intersecting with this one and creating a larger whole. So I think about Venice Vintage Motorcycle Club and Beachside Moto Club and Rebels, Gridiron Rebels. They all show up. And they band together, and it becomes like this super group. And so what happens is anywhere you go as being part of this ride, you have a friend. I roll out on the weekends. I show up in Malibu. There's always somebody there I know, and it's great because it's an entirely different cohort of folks, than I would encounter day to day. And it's really nice. It ties the city together, make new friends, kind of what we were talking about. So that's been my favorite thing, just to watch these folks connect with each other, are all around a common cause, but really about bikes, which is it's just so nice. It's like such an equalizer.
I love it. Equalizer.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, when you talk about success stories, I could name specific individuals that have fought cancer and knocked it out. I don't want to do that, but there's a lot of them, and that's why they're involved. But I think the biggest thing for me has been watching the community come together and watching those funds increase every year. You know, last year, I think one of the biggest success stories that we had was having Jaime Camille get involved and watching him raise more funds than anyone's raised in Los Angeles history as an individual. And the camaraderie around that and the rest of the team trying to catch up and watching the highest fundraisers from the previous years goes, oh, I'm going to raise more than, you know, and it's like, those are success stories to me because those dollars are making differences in lives that are desperate. And that to me is, I can rest in that. You know, this may be my last year being a city host, and I can rest knowing that those kind of changes were made in the world for the effort that we all put in as a team.
Yeah, and let's face it. I mean, let's think about mental health for just a second. The more you contribute to helping with mental health, imagine all the things that can be solved with a sounder mind, okay?
Infinite.
I would say that, you know, 4 out of 5 people that I know have anxiety, me being one of them probably. We would resolve school shootings. We would resolve divorces. We would resolve bullying. All these things would get resolved with solid mental health and good solid therapy and that kind of stuff. And this is a contributor. I'm not saying we're changing the world all at once. Of course not. But this is a step in the right direction.
And it's a trickle-down effect if you think about it. If somebody's father, you know, maybe he has 2 sons and a daughter, and if that father is, you know, somebody reaches out to him and says, hey, there's this program, or hey, you should check this out, or hey, here's his phone number, give it a call, you know, or maybe he discovers that phone number on his own because there's been enough pumping of advertisement by Movember Foundation that he sees something on his Instagram or his Facebook, and he's like, what's this? And he clicks on it. Suddenly you have this transition where he's helping himself without even realizing it. And the moment that happens, those 3 children are affected and their children are affected. You know, it's a trickle-down effect. And that child might have been one of those children that watched his father hold a gun and then maybe ran into a school. You know, like if you could make that one difference, think about the lives that are affected throughout time. So, you know, that's why I said, like, if this is my last year, I can walk away because I know that the impact, the waves that come off that impact will wrap around the world in some way or another over time. And that brings me a lot of peace. And I think that's what we do this for. And if we're not doing it for that, it's okay. But that's why I did it, you know?
Yeah, but you're not leaving us. You're not leaving us.
Well, I'll never leave the community. You know, I'm born and raised in LA. I love the city. It has its challenges, but it's always had its challenges.
A lot of challenges right now.
Yeah, but that, you know what? People look at that and they focus in on one thing or two things, you know, like homelessness, for example. Well, I've lived here my whole life. There's always been homelessness. Yeah, it's the worst it's ever been, but we'll figure something out. We know a lot.
I'm not worried about I'm worried about the homelessness, but I'm more worried about the what do they call it?
Mental health.
Well, the mental health is
that's what drives most of it.
Exactly.
But the other issue is the amount of people that are living out of their cars that have jobs. You know, those guys, like, maybe they're on that border or that forefront of losing their fucking mind.
You know what sucks? You know? It sucks that there's people that pretend to be homeless or pretend to be desolate and stand out there. They're the ones that make it really bad for the other people that really, truly need the help, okay? Yeah. I literally witnessed yesterday, I'm sorry to vent, I literally witnessed a guy that was sitting from here to that camera with a sign, and he looked like he ate pretty well, quite honestly. And there was a guy, his car broke down. I'm way far away from being able to turn the whole way around to help this guy. His car stalls. He's trying to move his car. He's by himself. And this homeless guy just sitting there with a sign. I mean, you could tell this guy was big and strong enough to go help that guy. Yeah. That guy probably would have went, hey, man, thank you so much. But so it's those guys that form the face of the resentment that people have.
100%.
And then you don't get to look at the real problems.
Right.
that
But
are
I want to expose something, because I've just heard about this and kind of known about this way too long. Those guys that you're talking about, those guys are not homeless. Those guys, that's a mob.
That's right.
That's a mob. Those are people that get into drug debts, and then somebody says, well, you can't pay your drug debt, you're going to stand on that corner. And that's why you see the same people standing in the same corner, and a block or half a block away, you'll see spotters making sure that people are on that corner are holding up that sign and asking for money. It's a controlled mafia underground thing, and it's happening right in front of our face. One that drives me crazy, and every time I'm with Jaime, it's funny because it's not funny, but it's just funny that I'm always with Jaime when I see it and I get into this rage and I start venting. And he's like, dude, you've said this a million times. Laurel Canyon and 101. When you get off, sometimes there'll be a woman with her 2 kids, a newborn, a kid, everything. And there'll be a cop right next to me. And I'm like, this is bullshit, because this cop is past, like, he doesn't care. But, like, if I had one of my kids and I raised my voice and a neighbor would have called or something, there'd be a SWAT team over here. And why? Because they know I'm a responsible person. They could tax me and fine me. And, there's a case there. But you see, I'll give you another example. Forest Lawn. You get off on Forest Lawn, there's like 20 people right there selling oranges and flowers and fruits and all that. And God bless, let them do whatever they got to do. Yeah. But police drive by, they don't do anything. But then guess what? You drive 4 or 5 minutes later, and the cop pulled over a Mercedes-Benz, and it's a woman, who knows, it's probably late out of work, trying to get to her kid's school to pick up her kids, getting a $500 ticket. Her insurance is going to go. It's weird. There's a bunch of these weird, unfair things that kind of fuck it up for everybody else.
There is.
So I get that. Sorry for the language.
And that's not my fight, but at the same time, it's society's fight.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's all our fight in a way. But what I'm trying to say is that, it makes it harder. Like, I have an 11-year-old daughter that wants to give money to homeless people every time she sees them, out of the goodness of her heart. Right. And those kind of people will take it, and they're not taking it out of the goodness of their heart. Right. And there's people that really will. Okay.
But we can't tell the difference.
What makes it nice about what we're doing to bring it full circle to this is that we know exactly where this is going. If you want to be part of something that does make a difference, you can physically see where this money and where these funds go.
Let me stack on top of that too, because there's the layers, there's the fabrics of our city. We're in a big city. There's a lot of chaos in the city. There's a lot of different cultures that are all intertwined. People have asked me what's LA like when they're not from here. I travel a lot with my wife, who's Dutch, and we've been all over the world, and people ask me about LA, and I was like, well, if you took New York and you threw it against the wall and it splat, and then you turn that flat, it's the same idea. It's these pockets of communities that are all kind of spread out,
but even more so,
exactly. And I think within that, there's this fabric of different mental health, different financial health, different educational health. All these different layers create these different situations. And you're going to have drugs. You're going to have all these factors that kind of make it more extreme. And I think for me, to pull it full circle, just like you were saying, is like, if you can help mental health in a platform that's generic enough that it can reach a lot of people, that's making a big difference. And mental health for me is something that I had to figure out at a very young age, losing my father in a car accident at 6 years old, and having a mother that didn't know how to deal with that mentally and, physically would take it out on me and get mad at me and stuff. And my sister too. And I came out, out of it fucked up, and I got help on my own, and I made that first call, and then sat in that chair for the first time and talked about those things and figured out that I can create boundaries in my world, and I can use these tools that I've learned and develop ways to not have anger become the primary response to situations. And I just, having gone through that myself at a very young age without any help, really, really just kind of realizing, wow, I think it was an outburst I had in the car. I punched my own windshield. I was really angry and shattered my front windshield of my truck. And I was like, whoa, that's not healthy. I need to do something about this. And that was that was a catalyst of change for me, was that extreme moment. Now, luckily, I didn't harm anybody when I did it.
The front windshield or the side windshield?
Front windshield.
Yeah.
And it's harder to do than you think, and it just happened
He's
like
big
that.
enough to do it.
Yeah,
So.
no, I've been there, done that. That's why I was like, which one did you do?
Yeah, and it was just one of those things like, okay. And I think it was like 2 months later, I was sitting in a chair. And it's 3 years later, I was looking at the world totally differently. And I had a different circle of people around me, and I had a much healthier environment. And, you know, I hadn't had that opportunity to have somebody reach out to me. I didn't see something online because the online wasn't really a thing back then. And now that's there. And I feel like people are so into their phones, they're staring at them. Like, if you could come across that one Movember ad that says, because some of these ads are really catchy. You know, they work really hard on this stuff.
They're good.
And sometimes you look at something, you're like, oh God, let me click on that. And next thing you know, you're healing. You know, you're taking a step. And that's what we're trying to do.
I think
and when we talk about those mobs that you're talking about, those very same people are in the position they're at because of something mental that happened to them.
And it didn't happen overnight.
They're two different sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Honestly.
Exactly.
I mean, we're not better than them.
Right.
We're just
playing a different path.
exactly. And so again, if we could solve mental illness, which we'll never completely solve, but the better that it gets, the lesser problems, the more evolved our society becomes, I should say.
Yeah.
And so, you know,
The simplest way to describe
we're
it is,
we're the Darwins of motor. No,
the simplest way to describe it is you're walking on a sidewalk and there's somebody you don't know walking next to you, and they don't see that there's a chunk of sidewalk missing. All you're doing is reaching out and saying, hey, there's a big hole in front of you. That's it. It's that simple. It's if you can change one person's path so that they avoid hurting themselves or someone around them, you've made that difference. And I think that's, for me, that's what it's about.
One of the greatest things about DGR is that it really destigmatizes the entire notion of asking for help, getting help, being, you know, able to be vulnerable, and especially for men. And I think that first step is always the hardest because there is a stigma around it, unfortunately. Yeah. And there really shouldn't be. There's no reason for that.
Yeah. I think we covered it. We hit time.
Yeah.
Guys, I appreciate you guys making
you're
it out here.
excellent. Thank you for this.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Roberto.
Any news, any updates, just hit me up. You want to do another show, we'll do another show, no problem. Appreciate every single thing you guys are doing for the community. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
Of course.